Hi, this is Ron Huxley. Would you like to just feel safe? There's many people who go through trauma or have anxiety or depression. They just don't feel very safe. A lot of this has to do with the fact that many of us have gone through child abuse, neglect, abandonment. We've walked a very orphan sort of existence. Even if we had parents in our lives, a lot of those parents were not always healthy people. And so we never really experience what it means to be safe. Well, I want to teach you a technique called the safe place technique. This is a very psychosensory approach, much like the butterfly hug or the karate chop that I've taught you in a couple other videos. This technique, it was originally designed by Dr. Ronald Rubin, who is a Harvard organic chemist, and he developed this technique that would allow us to feel safe and secure. The technique, as he originated it, was called the havening technique. A havening actually refers to a haven, or literally a place of safety or rest. And because so many of us have gone through anxiety, depression as a result of traumas throughout our life, I've reframed this to be called the safe place technique. Safe place is a concept that came by Dr. John Bowlby back in the 50s. He's the originator of the ideas of attachment, a father of attachment, he's called. And he learned that a small child needs to have a safe place, i.e., a guardian, a parent, whom they can feel secure and attached to. Once that child does feel safe and secure, it can then go on to explore the world. The child may encounter difficulties and trials out in the world, and they would come back to that guardian or that parent whom they feel attached to. And that was what he referred to as a safe haven. Children who had a secure attachment went into the world, were able to learn, were able to explore it, and then come back when they needed to for a safe haven. And those children who did not have a secure relationship, what he called an insecure attachment style, had difficulties with school and learning because they were always in a fight or flight survival mode. They weren't able to actually have a place of safety to draw their strength from or to return to for comfort and security. When children are extremely traumatized and very far along the secure, insecure continuum, at the very far end of that insecure continuum is something called disorganized attachment. This is probably the most severe form of insecure attachment or poor security. And these children are often the kids that we see in our foster care system, that they are kids who are placed, many of them for adoption. And we used to believe that the children who were placed for adoption weren't able to overcome this insecurity or this attachment. We call them reactive attachment disorder children, which I personally don't really agree with that definition, only because of the stigma that's been placed around it as if it's incurable. This series of videos really are focusing on healing and not just about functionality, not just about how to be symptom-free, reduce symptoms, but be completely symptom-free. And so we're looking at going beyond just getting functional and being able to manage behavior to really be healed, body, mind, and spirit. So in order to do that, we have to be able to include the holistic nature of the individual, the child or adult. It can't just be a psychological, cognitive approach to therapy and to healing. It really requires an inner healing approach that involves the spirit and the body, because we are both body, mind, and spirit. And as a result of that, we want to be able to include all of these things. So this technique that I'm going to teach you, the safe place technique, will allow you to lower your stress level and be able to feel grounded into your current present environment, to not feel dissociated from your world around you, to feel more competent and confident as an individual, to have greater peak performance as an employee or as a professional, and also give you some regulation skills for those of us who get over anxious into panic attacks, or to feel hypo vigilant, which is depression. So what the happening technique, or the safe place technique, does is it utilizes a very sensory approach by simply rubbing the sides of our arms. Some people like to rub just one direction. I've seen some people like to rub both directions. It's kind of like when you comfort someone. When you see someone in emotional distress, how you would comfort them. Nothing harder than that. And what you do at this place is that you close your eyes as you're continuing this motion, and you visualize certain areas that makes you feel safe and peaceful and comforted. And then you incorporate this with some eye movements that allow you to process this into your nervous system, a concept called neuroresilience, a word that I coined called neuroresilience, that allows this to become a very familiar reflexive action and makes you more resistant to stress and anxiety. So this is how it works. As you're rubbing up and down on your arms very lightly, very comforting yourself, you close your eyes, and then you imagine yourself walking along a beach. Now, if you are a spiritual person, you can visualize God walking alongside you through this. If you want to do this alone, as you're walking, visualize yourself walking alone, that's fine, or some other comforting figure, that's fine. But you want to make sure that you feel safe and secure and comforted. So as you're doing this rubbing motion, what you do is you are going to be visualizing yourself walking on a beach, and you're going to take 20 steps. 1, 2, 3 steps, 4, 5, 6 steps. If you get distracted, just bring your attention back to visualizing walking on the beach. 7, 8, 9, 10 steps, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Open your eyes and move your eyes as far left as you can go. Find a point in the room. Then move your eyes all the way to the right as far as you can go. Find another point in the room. Eyes to the left. Keep your arms. Continue to stroke your arms. Eyes to the right. Eyes to the left. Eyes to the right. Now you're going to visualize yourself walking along cool green grass. Maybe a lawn, and maybe walking through a meadow in the forest. But you're going to take another 20 steps. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 steps, 12, 13. Let your mind come back. 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Open your eyes. Put your eyes as far left as they go. Find a point. Keep your arm movements going. Eyes all the way to the right. Find a point. Eyes to the left. Eyes to the right. Eyes to the left. Eyes to the right. Now you should start to feel comforted, satiated, restful, peaceful, comforted. Often you'll feel just kind of a deep sigh. Take a deep breath at the end. Those are good signs. It shows that your nervous system is now engaged in a parasympathetic or relaxation response, and is now just registered this peaceful feeling that you have encoded into it, and as a result of that are building neuroresilience. Do this over and over until you feel like you are comforted, safe, peaceful, calm. So you can do the 20 steps on the beach, eye movements, 20 steps in a grass, eye movements, and just keep repeating that as you need to. What happens for us is that because of traumas, because of stressors, because of just life tends to be so full of challenges and stressors, we can actually start having trigger reactions to certain events. So if you've constantly been yelled at and screamed at through verbal emotional abuse as a child, if someone raises their voice as an adult, you can be triggered. This is simply a learned response to a trauma reaction. And often we would love to change that so we're not constantly feeling triggered by somebody raising their voice and feeling defensive. Well, if something can be learned, it can be unlearned. If something has a trigger response, you can get a trigger to something different. So if your nervous system is focused on negativity and in a fight or flight reaction based on someone raising their voice, then you can develop a new trigger to something that's comforting, safe, peaceful, and calm. Make sense? So try this happening technique or this safe place technique whenever you are feeling distressed. Again, it's best when you start to feel stressed at a low level. Say you're on a scale of 1 to 10 and you're like a 3 or 4, start right there. Don't go farther than that. If you're higher, you can definitely utilize this technique to bring you down lower, but the best results are going to be as soon as you start to catch that feeling of stress in your body picking up as a result of the trigger. And then immediately bring it back down. This will keep you at what's called a homeostatic balance emotionally and allow you to be much more competent. Again, what we want to be able to do is we want our spirit to be in control of our soul, which is our mind, will, emotions, and then our mind, will, and emotions should be in control of your body. Unfortunately, what happens for many of us, it's all reversed. We have our body, because of trauma and experiences in our life, in control of our soul, our mind, will, emotions, and our spirit is just some little tiny spark down underneath there. It's not gone, but it needs to be blown on, it needs to be encouraged, it needs to be built up in order for that to be strengthened in our life. When that is in correct order of spirit and soul and body, then we are much more powerful individuals, we are much more resilient individuals, we're much more calm and peaceful individuals, and we are able to have a greater sense of knowing who we are and who we are, which is very counter towards a sort of orphan mentality that so many of us get as a result of the traumas that we experience early in life. Thank you for taking this time.